I'm Devin,
I'm Francisco.
and you should probably watch Happiness.
You okay?
Yeah, sure. I'm fine.
It's good we had this talk.
Yeah.
Before things went too far, you know? Got too serious.
Is it someone else?
No. It's just you.
So, we're here tonight to talk about Happiness.
Which
For the title.
we briefly talked about
In Manchester by the Sea.
In the Manchester by the Sea video.
I'll be honest, I have no idea how to talk about this movie. Not that I'm confused about the movie by any means, but unlike Vampire's Kiss, where there was already some public awareness, and so basically all you had to do was basically, hey, you know all this stuff you already like about this movie? There's a lot more.
Yeah.
This is none of it. People have no idea what happiness is. And I almost feel like... No. And I almost feel like there's like this line that you either are going to just confuse people or mislead people, or you're going to ruin it for them.
Yes.
It's a really fine line.
So, first, I want to start with why you've never heard of this movie.
I think that's a good word to start.
So, this movie came out in, I don't remember the exact year, but it was mid to late 90s. It has a great cast in it. You know, Philip Seymour Hoffman, to say, you know, nothing of the others. But the problem is that the movie is rated NC-17. It is one of the few NC-17 movies out there that aren't just basically porn. This is rated NC-17 for its content.
Yes.
And I will point out, never once do you see a boob.
Visually, it is a very clean movie.
Yeah. Well, you do see some cum, but you don't see the dick the cum comes from.
Yeah, that's true.
But other than that, there's no nudity. There's no
Violence?
There's a little. Remember when he's in the park?
Oh.
It's not real though. Okay, but besides the point, it's very mild violence. There's no nudity. There's nothing overtly sexual other than what is discussed, right? But
Yes.
even then, the movie is rated NC-17, which means it never got a theatrical release, and which also means even though it should have been, it was never nominated for any Oscars, because if you don't get a theatrical release, you don't get any love at the Oscars. So the movie sort of disappeared into obscurity. Is only available on DVD, and as far as I know, isn't even in print anymore. So there's no Blu-rays, and if you want a copy of it, you have to actively search for one.
If there's anything of a hidden gem that we're going to talk about on the show, I think this pretty much is it. As far as obscure movies, this is my predilection. This is my diamond in the rough. This is
Your predilection.
yes. I love it. I love this movie.
So, another good thing to talk about is other movies that it can be compared to, so as not to get too deep into its content.
Okay.
This would go...
That's hard.
No, it would go right alongside Magnolia. It would go right alongside Requiem for a Dream.
Interesting. So, yeah.
It would fit in there with American Beauty.
Very character theme movie.
Yes, but specifically, I think Magnolia is the best comparison in terms of its structure.
Yes, Magnolia is structurally very similar in the sense that you have all these stories that intersect in some way, although I would say this intersects better than Magnolia.
Yes, it does.
It's a tighter knit story about some characters, and they all have something prevalent to do with each other, and you're kind of following all of them around as their stories develop individually.
Yeah, it hops back and forth between characters that are all interconnected at one point or another. Most of the characters are actually a family with a few outbranching characters. So that's pretty much all you can really say without getting into spoilers. And as I said on the last You Should Probably Watch, I normally don't care about spoilers, but for movies that we're going to talk about in this series, they tend to be better viewed dry.
Yes. You should, especially with Happiness, a lack of expectations is the key.
Yes. Although that being said, you probably want something to tease you into watching it. So, without getting into anything too deep, you should know what you're getting into.
Yes.
Because do not watch this movie with your family.
Do you like men?
It's not so simple.
Are you lesbian?
No.
It's alright. I like lesbian.
I mean, it's rated NC-17, so maybe it should go without saying,
yeah.
But straight up, don't watch this movie with your family. And I'm not even talking kids. Don't watch it with your parents.
Don't watch this with squeamish friends either.
Yeah, squeamish, again, we don't mean like blood and gore.
There is none of that.
Or anything visually overtly sexual, but...
This isn't disturbing in any way that is comparable to most of the disturbing movies that you'd hear about. It's not a Human Centipede or Human Centipede 2. It's not a Hostel. It's nothing about that. It's
what makes this movie disturbing are the concepts that it tackles, right? And it is not afraid to throw the darkest shit that it can possibly think of at you. This is a dark comedy. We should say that.
Yes.
We haven't said that yet. This is a dark comedy, but it is probably the single darkest dark comedy ever made. And what's funny about that is there are a lot of dark comedies who take a darker tone. Right?
Yes, the tone is actually pretty bright in this movie.
Yeah,
there's a lot of bright colors.
Yeah,
and very
like,
nice colors.
Bright colors comparable to the neighborhood in Edward Scissorhands. Like really bright pastels.
Very powerful greens. You made a reference to Amelie, which was entirely appropriate. In tone, or in atmosphere rather, this is a very light movie, very bright, very cheerful.
But the subject matter being dealt with here is incredibly dark.
Yes.
But it's the way that it handles it in its comedy, in its awkwardness. Like the comedy in this movie, as we said in Manchester by the Sea, comes from the awkwardness, and it makes these super dark subject matters not just palatable but also interesting. You want more.
It's more than that. It makes it relatable. This is an amazing comedy to begin with, and out of sheer awkwardness and out of sheer eye-boggling, oh my god, I can't believe you're doing this in this movie. It is amazing in that sense, but it's also amazing in a movie-making sense. It's just like this movie will make you relate to some of these people who are it'll make you relate to some of the most horrific characters ever put on film. Yeah. In fact, I think the most relatable person in here is arguably the most despicable. Yeah, it is. Partially because of the actor. What's his name?
I don't remember his name, but I think that's all we're gonna say for the first half, right? We recommend that if you have not seen this movie, which is highly likely, that you go out and you watch it right now before watching the rest of this video.
Yeah, definitely.
If you have seen this movie and you want to hear us talk about how fucking batshit crazy it is, then stick around and we will talk to it. I will say though, before you go, walking into stores and asking them to help you find happiness is one of the best things ever. Yeah. Anyway, so spoilers ahead.
Okay, so let's start with really the meat of it, I guess. Let's leave the outbranching stories to be discovered. As we said, the most relatable character in this movie is
He's arguably the main character. Like, if there is a main
Yeah.
character, it's this guy, because everything sort of branches off of him.
and he
What is he?
he's a family man.
Okay. Well, yes, I
He's
guess.
a family man, and he has two or three kids. Doesn't he has two or three kids? I'm not sure anymore.
Pretty sure he has two boys.
When the eldest son is now like 11 years old, and he's growing up, he's starting to learn about his sexuality, about like his body's changing, and he comes to his father and asking very, intimate questions about his reproductive organs.
Is this where you want to start?
And this wouldn't be
I
so
guess so.
bad if the father wasn't a pedophile. A serial rapist pedophile at that. So
Yeah. So what we should say is this character is a pedophile, but unlike how pedophiles, like, if there is one in a movie, which I don't know how many movies have pedophiles in them, but if there is one in a movie, they're always portrayed as villainous, like a disgusting, creepy monster, predatory, or in the case of The Woodsman, it's used to have a character story about a guy trying to fight his addiction, essentially. This is handled very differently, where it's very, very upfront about the fact that he is a pedophile, to the point where he's jerking off to, like, children's magazines in a car in a parking lot while kids are, like, walking in the background.
we are gonna sound like the worst people ever, saying these things and laughing our ass off.
That's what the movie does!
Exactly.
That's what it does, alright?
It makes you so... You're so speechless that you are watching this, that you can't help but laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
It is the best shock humor I've ever seen.
Yes, shock humor's a good word for it, but it's shock humor used appropriately.
Yes.
It's shock humor used to get a point across.
I mean, the way, since you're laughing with these characters, despite the things they're doing, you find yourself relating to them. You find yourself sympathizing. You find yourself empathizing.
Yeah, and the pedophile character, who, by the way, is also a psychiatrist.
Who has a psychiatrist.
Is, in my opinion, the most relatable character, because even though you know that he does these horrific things, right? Everything else around that, he's a good father, a good provider for his family, you know? He seems to be a genuinely good person, except for this. You know what I mean?
And not only that, he struggles with it. It's
Yeah,
not something
exactly.
he takes pride on, or that
No.
he has a secret basement where he has like his... No, it's something that comes from within him, regardless of his desires.
Yeah, like where the Woodsman is about sort of fighting your urges and winning, his story, at least, is about fighting your urges and losing.
Yes.
And that's what's relatable about it, is a character who knows that what he's doing is wrong, but has a desperate need to do it anyway. And while for most of us that's not fucking children, we've all had that, right?
true.
For one thing or another. And that's why that character is so relatable, even though he's the most horrifically despicable character I think I've ever seen in a movie.
He might be.
Yeah, because and the thing is, like we said, he's not a disgusting human being. You know what I mean? And that's what makes his character so interesting, but also scary in a way. You know?
He's the little monster inside all of us, in a certain sense.
Yeah, yeah. So all of the stories kind of branch off of him. The other major story is his client.
Yes.
Although you never see them together except for the very beginning.
Yeah.
How's it going? She only knew how I felt, but she doesn't even know I exist. I bore people. Who is that boring person, they think?
He lives in a shitty apartment building, and the whole thing is, I would say a love triangle, but not really.
No, that is way too glamorizing.
Essentially, this guy is obsessed with sex in a weird way. You'll notice that pattern here is, even though we said there's nothing overtly sexual and visually in the
Most
movie,
characters are sexually dysfunction on some level.
yes, this movie is almost purely about dysfunction, but almost specifically sexual dysfunction with all of them. And Philip Seymour Hoffman's thing is that he will like just open a phone book, find a girl's name, call it, and then tell her how he wants to fuck her until cum comes out of her ears.
Yeah. Or just asking her for pussy's all wet.
Yeah, so I guess he's like a verbal rapist where he just like calls you and then word fucks
Serial
you.
caller.
Yeah. And it's about him, the girl that he
Fancy?
the girl that he fancies, who is the pedophile's sister-in-law.
Yes.
Who is like a pretentious artist type.
People are always putting New Jersey down, but that's just because they don't get it. I'm living in a state of irony.
She writes books about teenagers being raped, and she has a moment was like, everything I write is so vapid. I wish I was raped.
Yeah, so she's a pretentious goth artist essentially, and has this obsession with how she feels like in order to truly experience life that she should be raped.
Pretty much,
Right.
she gets that conclusion. She feels like everything around her is so vapid, and people don't really see her, but she's just vapid as everything else. So it's basically like, hello, bot, I'm down.
And then you have the girl who likes Philip Seymour Hoffman, who's a big, not particularly attractive girl.
I'm a passionate woman.
Yeah.
But I hate sex.
She's the friend from Ghost Whisperer for some reason.
Is she? I wouldn't know.
Is. I don't
wouldn't
know why.
So-
Like, I like her here. I think she's a better character here.
Oh, she's a good actor. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why she was in the fucking Ghost Whisperer.
You need help. You need help, Melinda. If you ever talk to my son again, so help me God.
Sure, go ahead with your story.
How many times did I walk in here?
All of the acting is stunning.
It is. Even the kids.
Yes, even the kids are great. And there's one scene in particular having to deal with the pedophile talking to his son that I legitimately feel should have won an Oscar, because that is a fucking amazing scene.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the girl who likes Philip Seymour Hoffman, you find out her story, right? And it's sort of about them colliding sort of past each other in ways until they eventually come together. And then the third major story is
Joy?
Yeah, I think that's her name. The pedophile's second sister-in-law.
Yes.
Who her story I feel is the least interesting.
Definitely.
But it's not bad. It's
It makes sense to be in this movie.
Yes, what it is the antithesis to Philip Seymour Hoffman's story. Whereas Philip Seymour Hoffman is not looking for love at all and is essentially just horny and awkward.
Yeah.
Right? This girl, Joy, I believe is her name,
Yes.
is actively looking for love and it's blowing up in her face.
Yeah.
So
Well, she's actively looking for love, but she will always basically ruin it with the sex.
No. It's just you.
I'm not sure that it's the sex that ruins it.
I feel like that's the reason, because
that
at
she's
the
too
beginning-
eager to give it.
No, because at the beginning she's breaking up with
John Lovitz.
With John
yes,
Lovitz.
this movie opens with an amazing scene that's just between her and John Lovitz that goes on for like 10 minutes of them just talking, and it's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, where it is revealed that she does like him, his personality, but she's not attracted to him. And then, throughout her story, she comes to become attracted to another guy who is despicable, but she still fucks him and still expects a relationship to come out of it, even though it makes no sense. It would never happen.
Yeah, and even though they just met.
Exactly.
This guy that she fucks is a Russian dude, and I think he's the most boring character in the movie.
He definitely is. He definitely.
Whereas all of the other characters kind of say something about the theme, he really exists only to be a monkey wrench.
Yeah, it feels like he's just
like he doesn't propel the theme really. But not to say that like it's a horrible part of the movie, because it's not. But it just feels like the rest of the movie is better than this one part is.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think that is about all that we should say. This movie, you should go in not knowing almost anything about it. It is a movie to watch with friends.
It would help, yes.
But friends who you know can deal with this kind of subject matter.
Yeah. I don't know exactly how to describe these friends.
Well, us.
Yeah.
Basically, if your friends are open, they're not squeamish when it comes to sex, they're okay making light of dark situations, then this is a great movie to put in. And we should say, or I want to say also, whereas we said that about Vampire's Kiss also, this isn't a so bad it's good.
No.
This is a legitimately good movie. There is brilliant filmmaking at work here.
The cinematography is great. There's like a lot of playing with shadows and with color palettes and with lighting. There's the acting. You have great actors doing it, and even the kids are good. So you never hear us saying that the kids are good.
Yeah, the pedophile's son is legitimately a fantastic actor.
Yeah.
And holds his own next to the performance that what's his name who played the pedophile does.
And it's a movie that has a subtext and develops it properly and delivers a powerful message.
Yeah.
It is a legitimately good movie that just unfortunately just has been completely forgotten.
Yeah, and it's really sad. I would love to start a campaign to get this put on Blu-ray and released again, because this movie would look great on
You mean
Blu-ray.
you want to be like first Hitman target for Mothers of America? Because I understand why a lot of people would dislike
why a lot
this
of
movie.
people would be afraid to get involved with this.
Because it's very uncompromising.
It is. And it's also extremely uncomfortable.
Yes, but while something like Manchester by the Sea or Dunkirk, it's uncomfortable in an imaginably funny way.
Yes. The movie uses its discomfort against you.
Yes.
Like, it uses it on purpose. It's not just uncomfortable. It uses it as a storytelling tool.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what makes it such a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
It deals with these dark subjects. It deals with them very well. It makes them funny, but doesn't disrespect them, which is very important.
Yes, this movie has a serial rapist pedophile that you come to relate to, and in no way or matter seems to be disrespecting neither the victims of pedophilia nor the people who
are
are
pedophiles.
pedophiles.
Yeah, and that's what's so interesting about this is the movie comes across very understanding of the darkest parts of humanity.
And is there without judgment, without self-righteousness, which would kill this movie immediately.
Yeah, if it came off judgy and preachy.
Yeah, it's not any of that. It's a window. It's a space for you to come to understand these people without the, I guess, the need to say, oh no, this is bad and there's no more discussion. Basically.
Yeah, the movie does have a discussion, and that's the thing, because it makes, I want to say it makes some good points, but like we also said, it's not preachy. The movie doesn't come off feeling like it's trying to make a point, but it does. And it makes a good one.
Yeah.
So please go watch this.
You won't probably maybe regret it.
Yes, if you're a person who is a little bit sensitive, then I guess you would have a problem watching this, but I swear to God, it's a great movie. It's extremely well made and extraordinarily well acted, and it deserves your attention. It doesn't deserve to be lost in obscurity like it is.
If anything, it's a rare movie, and hey, there's value in that.
Yeah, if you're a huge hipster, then you can actually like something good for once.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Good night, guys.
Laughing at you. I'm laughing with you.
But I'm not laughing.
Gonna find it, gonna find my happiness. Gonna find it,